Hey friends, and welcome back to another session of Through the Fire Garage Sessions. I'm John Koeshall. Let's get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about just doing a little bit of a recap and just retouching on what we've been doing in the last few weeks with a single stick, okay? And then I'm going to show you a couple different ways you can look at those motions. So let's get right into it, shall we? So we started out doing some basic families of motion. We started out with a downward figure eight and an upward figure eight. Downward, 45-degree angle, hitting forward, forward, downward 45-degree angles. Important thing here is accuracy. I want to be very precise with where the tip of the stick is going. So even now as I'm looking at the camera, I want to make sure that the point of it goes through the lens of the camera on every shot, okay? So that's the downward figure eight. Then I can reverse that and it's an upward figure eight. Now, key thing here to remember is that my body is moving a little bit more as the stick moves in a much more slinky kind of motion. This is kind of a hacking, hitting motion. This is kind of a slicing motion. Okay, and it's a little bit different motion. And you should make that happen by moving your body, okay, body mechanics. Then we looked at just doing some other versions of that, right? If I just give you a couple other ones, I can do figure eights, a shallow eight about the temple or the eye level. I can do it at the elbow level. And basically I'm going back and forth, but the end of the weapon makes a shallow figure eight. That's why we call that a shallow eight at the elbow, shallow eight at the eyes, okay? Then we looked at doing redondo. So we looked at making the weapon follow the same line over and over and over on the backhand side. We also looked at that vertically and also at a 45 or on that angle number 1. And then we looked at it horizontally, moving this way. Of course, I can do all these things from the forehand orientation as well. There's the 45 across. There is the 90-degree or the horizontal across. Vertical, 45, coming straight across the horizontal. Okay? We also looked at what it would look like to hit the first 5 angles of attack. So we looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Other systems might teach you 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And yet another system, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Doesn't matter. Primarily what's important is that you speak the same language as those you're training with, is what your instructor is teaching you. So that when he says in shorthand, hey, give me an angle number 1, everybody knows what we're talking about and there's no surprises, okay? It just cuts down on trying to explain, hey, I want you to hit me like this. If I say an angle number 1, all my guys know exactly what to do. There's no ambiguity there, okay? So we looked at those things and then we started putting them over footwork. So then we had different footwork patterns. We had the forward triangle or the female triangle. Some people actually call this a reverse triangle. Then we have the triangle going backwards with a point at the front, which we would call the male triangle. Then we had different variations, and you can go back and look at a lot of those different footwork patterns and different variations that we did and how to combine that with the different stick work. We also looked at how to switch hands in motion while you're hitting to be able to move and switch and hit. Okay? So today what I'd like to talk to you about a little bit is hitting with power. Now, when I have a stick, there is no edge. Therefore, how can this be a weapon for me? It has to develop a speed so that when it impacts, there's shock. There is no blade, so it's not going to cut. With a blade, I don't have to move as much or as fast because I have to move fast to actually hit, but to do damage, the sharpness of the blade actually does the work for me. So what I need to do then with this is learn to develop hitting power with it. And so what I'd like you to do is make sure you have a tight grip, make sure you've got a fist width beneath your gripping hand, make sure you're gripping tightly if you need to. Wear some kind of a tennis glove or a golf glove or something that keeps your hand from slipping if you need to, okay? Some people even put athletic tape, and that'll help their hand have a little bit more stick. Okay, but then what I want you to do is just begin to build up power on that number 1 and number 2 line. Okay, and try to maintain accuracy as you're doing that. Okay, and what I would suggest for most people is that you start doing this maybe 50 times a day to develop power as you're hitting. 50 hard shots, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you can break it down to just a forehand and just a backhand. Maybe you do it this way. Hit 1 and just kind of bring your hand back. 2, pardon me, bring it back. 3, bring it back, okay? And in that way, you learn to develop speed and power with the weapon. It's been said that this is not a magic wand. You're not going to hocus pocus and make a little pretty pattern and all of a sudden have it work for you as a weapon. No, you actually have to develop speed and power to be able to hit with it so that it causes damage when you do make an impact, okay? Similarly, if you have tons of power and you can't hit what you're trying to hit, you don't have accuracy, it's no good to you either, okay? So it's going to be a combination of power and accuracy, later on timing, range, but first we need to get power and accuracy so we can develop a strike that's actually worthy of doing something and then make sure we can put it where we want to when we need it, okay? So take the time now, not only doing your footwork patterns and some of the coordination work in the integration videos, but start now to do power sets where you're working and do both the left and the right hand. Now, if I put a training implement that's a blade, and you can see this is a dull aluminum trainer, if I have a blade in my hand, these striking families are still the same. The only difference is instead of having to develop power with the blade, again, the edge is what's going to do the damage. So something that's sharp inherently has power. So, but I still want to have the accuracy to move that weapon, and you can still practice on those lines we've just talked about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can train with the weapon. Put it in your left hand. Get that accuracy down. It's a lot tighter and a lot closer that your pattern will become because this doesn't need space to accelerate across to make power. Okay? So begin to experiment. You can even use like a wooden spoon or a butter knife. It doesn't matter. So what's important is that I have something in my hand that reminds me that there's an edge on it and that I orientate that to cut with every motion instead of hitting with the flat of what the blade would be. Okay, so that's very important. So my friends, take these things. Begin now to express yourself in carenza. Begin to move with the weapon and use the patterns that you're starting to develop. And train. You need to start putting in the time. I can give you information. You have to make it work. That means you have to put in the time. Okay, proper information with time and training is what's going to get you good. All right? So you have a lot of information already. We're going to be giving you more in the next video. Hey, once again, thank you for joining me. Like, share, and subscribe. If you know anybody that would like this, please send it to them. Make sure you're hitting the bell so that you get notifications every time a new video is posted. New videos in North America go out Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. In Southeast Asia, where I'm located at, they come out on Wednesday and Friday morning. Talk to you soon.